Good morning, good morning, good morning. You're in tune to 98.9. That's when FM on your radio dial. It is Friday morning. Yeah, already it's Friday. It's about that time when we air for Your Views. Your Views is a program that is heard on Win FM 98.9 every Fridays. I'm getting tongue-tied. Is it excitement because I'm talking to you, or is just that I'm trying to get my thoughts together? Yeah, because I think I'm going to be disappointed this morning, but life goes on. I suppose you have to see what you can do in very quick time. So while talking, I'm trying to get my thoughts together. I'm trying to get my program together. I'm trying to just keep it real and get it together. My name is Sandra Quilliatitan. I am your host for Your Views. Like I said, Your Views is a program that is here on Win FM every Friday morning at 10 o'clock. It's a program where you can call in and discuss your views. It's not a voices program. So we want to make sure that we stick to the topics and that information that's garnered from this program would be helpful for the powers that be or people who are really tuned into the program and basically based on the topic who are affected by the topic that we're discussing. So that is what Your Views is all about, and we do hope that you can respect the views of others, realizing that we don't think alike and we are not the same, but we are affected in the same way. And so therefore we ask that you make sure that whenever you're making comments on your views, that they are constructive. I don't mind criticisms, but they have to be constructive. And the comments that you're making, make sure that it's information that one can use in the future or to help out the situation, whichever way the case may be. Okay, this morning I was supposed to be having a guest. But guess what? My guest is not here, unfortunately, not yet. And I do hope that he'll be able to come, but he have had other pressing or not really more important situation to deal with, but it's a situation that was extended and it was no fault of his. It's unforeseen circumstances, so I suppose let's hope that he can get through in time, because I definitely would want to talk to him, and I would hope that it's more than a half an hour, because it was information that I really would have wanted to put out there. But that's life. It is not that I'm disappointed, because I don't get disappointed. I expect nothing in life, and so therefore I am not disappointed. I just feel like it is information that was really important and that you might feel a little denied or deprived, for a better word. But that's how life is. So what we're going to talk about today, let's talk about politics, politicians, and we, the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, how we are affected. We are out of the silly season. It wasn't silly, as a matter of fact. It was a season that, for me, I realized people were airing their views and people were getting really, really personal. And we lost a sense of that kind of neighborhood, family type of environment that we're accustomed to in St. Kitts and Nevis. I was very much disappointed sometimes in some of the comments that were coming through. Well, at one point in time, I thought I became one of those. And so, and I realized that it wasn't a good place to be. And so sometimes you have to really recognize your position and move away from it. But that time is over. We are back to country building. The Team Unity government has, again, I say this again, that they have formed the government, and they are a government for the people. It matters not who you voted for in the last election. I suppose we have to move away from this situation, being afraid of expressing yourself because you feel like government is going to victimize you. Well, I don't think that should happen, and I don't think it would happen under the Team Unity construct. Well, let's hope not. But it is what it is. But we have to be careful the things that we say. What do we expect from the Team Unity government now that they have taken up positions in office? We have to look at the manifesto, and we have to listen to the information that was talked about on the virtual campaign that they had. You look at areas of concerns that they decide that would take priority. We heard about a new hospital. The question I'm going to ask, do you think that we need a new hospital at this time, or do you think we need an upgrade? These are the questions I'm going to find out from you, the people, what you think the government should do, whether or not they should upgrade what we have, or they should build a new one, state-of-the-art, hoping that state-of-the-art, meaning that we are going to have all the equipment necessary. We have CT scans, we have MRI machines, we have all of those type of machines that are absolutely necessary. We recognize that we are part and parcel to all of those chronic diseases that are plaguing us in the world today. We are part of those terminal diseases that are plaguing the world today. So therefore, having and understanding that we are a people who live from day to day on a paycheck to paycheck, can't afford sometimes insurance, so therefore we are heavily dependent on sometimes outside help, and we would not be able to jump on a plane and go elsewhere. So we do hope that when facilities like that are taken into consideration by government, they take to also into consideration the people who they're catering for, and hope that we have not just state-of-the-art buildings, but we have state-of-the-art equipment. And I do understand Akila, she's the Minister of Health. I've spoken to her, and honestly, she's young in the business, but I think that she's very organized. She has great planning strategies, and so I feel like once you have a plan, you can execute it however, whenever you want to. And I think that is one of the things that, one of the strengths of Akila is that she understands the situation, she plans for the situation, then she executes the situation. I can say that because I've interviewed her, and I was floored is for a better word, when I listened to a young woman who have not even been a minister yet, and the things and the plans and the things that she would have done, the things that she hoped to accomplish. I'm not understanding, well, I didn't talk to her about health because she didn't know what her ministry was going to be, her portfolio was going to be, but she had a very good understanding of what politics is all about and what the people expect of her. So I think she being in that position, it would definitely, we should look forward to good things happening. We do hope. So the question is whether or not you think the government should build a state-of-the-art hospital, or we should focus on getting proper equipment for the hospital, putting on different wings on the hospital, and making sure that people, our healthcare system is on par to that of the international healthcare systems. I mean, people always complain about what we have here, but I've traveled extensively, and let me tell you something, it is not much difference with what happened here to what happens over there. People are always saying that, making comparisons, and when I go over there, I look for something that is so much big and different, but there really no difference out there. So sometimes, some people are just saying that because they want to say that. Well, that is what I would have said. The next one we have, I must remind you that it's a program that you can call into at this point in time, because I'm not expecting my guest. My guest is not here yet, so I would open the lines. The number is 662-0989, 466-0989, and 762-0989. Those are the numbers you can call in if you want to be a part of the program and give some suggestions, because we live here. The country belongs to us, and I think that we are supposed to be part of the decision-making process. We are the ones who are supposed to say what we want, and the government is they're the ones who are supposed to comply with what we want. We have to start to assert ourselves as they are the servants to the people, and we have to start to assume the position of the people, and making sure we hold the government's foot to the fire and that live up to expectations. People always say, they promised this and they promised that and they didn't deliver. The reason why they didn't deliver is because we never kept their feet to the fire. We always allow them to do things that they want to, and they take on the position as leaders and not those of servants. And these are the areas that we have to seriously start looking into, of making sure that the government serve the people. Okay, so that was the Ministry of Health that we were looking at. Let's look at education. We now know that Janelle, he's young. He's not only young in age, but he's new to to Parliament, and he has taken on that big portfolio of education. We know that we are living in a world where everything is becoming virtual now. We have issues. COVID-19 has changed the world entirely. Things are not going to be as we normally expect. Classroom situations are becoming minimal, and so we are looking forward to the state-of-the-art, the futuristic technology that would be implemented where education is concerned. We understand that our children have to, it's a world where we still, education is a must. So we are waiting. I am still waiting to see what are we going to do and how we're going to look at this. Because when I look at the situation of COVID-19, we realize the world, we think it's a virus that I can't seem to understand, would not even try to understand, but we recognize the problems that we are now facing. One time it seems as though it's getting under control, and next time we're having a second wave, and it's not frightening, but it's just causing some real concern. You've heard of SARS, you've seen the Spanish flu, you've read about these things. You saw measles when it was one time, scarlet fever. Those are things that the world have had to deal with at one point in time. Now we have COVID-19, but the thing about COVID-19, it seems as though it's going to be COVID-20, COVID-21, and COVID-22, because this seems that it's not going to go anywhere. And that is, for me, it is a problem. All people need to go back to work, but having an understanding that some of us going to work mean opening our borders. Are we prepared for the second wave of COVID-19? We would have escaped the first one very well, thanks to the CMO and Dr. Wilkinson and the other for the frontline workers. We want to thank them for keeping us safe and keeping this virus at a minimum. We have not had the exposure and the experience like how other people would have had. We experienced no death, thank God. We experienced no hospitalization, so we didn't have to use those ventilators. We didn't have to really use our expertise. The health care system didn't have to go into depth and trying to use their initiative or tap into their experience and knowledge. We are so lucky that we have not had that experience. So we have to be grateful. But we are still not yet out of the woods. As a matter of fact, we're just entering there, because what I've seen, what I've read about, I do hope that we are not exposed to this virus on that magnitude. We are only a population of 50-something thousand people. I can't tell you how much, because we haven't had a proper census for a very long time. So we still have a very small population. It will take about a few months before we all disappeared if we should experience this COVID-19. So we still ask that you exercise caution. Be responsible. Wear your mask, sanitize, and try to, practice good hygiene, because this can pose some problems. Okay, back to the education system and what Janelle has to do. We know that Wasti High School is still a thing, an area that has not yet been completed. Why? I did not, unfortunately. I should have asked, but this was not my program for this morning. I'm just basically improvising. But it has not yet happened. So it's one of those areas that Janelle has to start looking at. And we have to take into consideration that these ministers do not just have one portfolio, but they have many portfolios. And so, and all of them have to have, you don't know which one you have to give priority to. And so sometimes it's difficult that we look at them and say, oh, you have not accomplished this or you have not accomplished that, but, and overlook other areas that they would have accomplished. And so they're human, just like us. Men are not very good at multitasking. We know that very well. And so, but kudos to them and the achievements that they would have had. Again, they have a team with them, so it's not just them. You have the permanent secretaries, you have the other workers, but at the end of the day, it's about them having to sit down and see where they're going to guide, because they're the leaders in this thing. So we have to be patient and understand that Rome was not built in a day, and they have been given a second chance to accomplish some more, because I must say they would have done very well in their first term. Kudos to them. It's an unfortunate situation that the Honorable Ian Patches Liebert was not returned to office, because that was one of the ministers, one of the most hard-working ministers that I've seen. And I really, I enjoyed the things that he was doing, and I look at the not just what he was doing, but the thought that went into it. And I was I was very pleased with the things that he would have accomplished. That is the unfortunate situation. I knew of the situation where he gave half of his salary to the citizen, to the constituents in number one. But sometimes people are not very appreciative. We can see that, and sometimes that is just not enough. And I've always believed that ministers of government has to make sure that the people, not just the portfolio that they have to look at, because a lot of them look at the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, not realizing that it's only one set of people that return them to office, and that is those are your constituents. And sometimes in their busy, out of their busy schedule, they don't take the time out to, or the constituents feel like they're not seeing them enough. I think that is very unfair, though, because we want, on one hand, we want them to accomplish certain things, and on the other hand, we want to be able to socialize with them. I don't know why, and why people want to be able to socialize with ministers of government, but people think that that is the way a minister just have to show up, walk in, and say hi. So tips to the Honorable Patches Liebert. We realize that what you would have done wasn't enough. People wanted to see you there, and unfortunately, the time is not now. But we do hope that you have a case, you have taken it to court, and I do hope that you are reinstated. Because if you look at the situation, and I don't, Dr. Hanley, he's in the opposition, he still can't do anything for his constituents. So therefore, not that, and I don't want to sound that way, but he's not in a position to help as he should. And so the people of constituency number one would not benefit as they should. But we do hope that, and that's the way I look at it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way, but if you look at it otherwise, you can call me and you can tell me, I shouldn't say things like that, but it's a fact. It has been a practice over the years that, when you're not in office, your hands are very much tied, and your constituency doesn't benefit. That really doesn't benefit the way that it should. It's the reality. If it's otherwise, you can call, you can tell me that it's not really the right thing to do, because I think that if you're a representative, you need to. And because I've seen Akila done that, and she was not in office. And so sometimes you, the representatives, you become very lazy and use the excuse that your party is not in power, and so there's not anything you can do. But there are letters you can write. You can look at areas that you think of concern, and you can bring it to the attention of the government, because that's what your job is. As a constituency representative, you are supposed to make sure that your people are comfortable, notwithstanding you're in or out of office. And that is the excuse that they tend to use, is that you go up, you ask people to vote for you. After they would have done that, you assume the position of opposition, and you stay in opposition, and you tell people when they come to you, oh, I can't help you, I'm in opposition. Those kind of practices should stop. You're the representative still, and you can write letters, you can go and you can liaise with the government, and that is your job. And talk for the people of that constituency. But like I said, that was so unfortunate. Let's look at another area. It is tourism. That is the Honorable Lindsey Grant's portfolio that he has. It's very. I'm looking forward to see what is the new way of how we're going to address the tourism industry. COVID-19 is very prevalent. We have a call. Let's go to the line and take this call. Caller, you're live on Your Views. We would have lost that caller. We know that COVID-19 that's the area of the industry that is being greatly affected, that is tourism. And we do wonder, what are we going to do? It's again one of major source of income. That's what our economy depends on heavily. And we see and we have heard the plans of the government. And so we wonder, well, we'll have to put the Prime Minister to task and see how good he was at fiscal prudency at this point in time, because it's a lot to ask with all those plans that they have to put in place. The good thing about it is that we are not in the hands of IMF, so we have that other area that we can fall back on. Thank God. I mean, that was one of the good things that one of the good accomplishments that he would have had in the first term. So we still have that area that we can lean on. But with all of these Caribbean islands that are facing the same situation, all of them having to go to IMF, it is going to be very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. I'm not a politician. I'm not very learned in those areas either, but I am applying common sense and my own analytical skills I'm putting there, and I for what I'm seeing, and I'm trying to maneuver in my head, how is it going to be possible? So let's see how much of a magician we have. I mean, he have worked magic in his first term, and I want to see how much more he can, what else he can pull out of that hat. I am looking forward to seeing that area of that portfolio. I'm going to see. I want to see what is going to happen where that is concerned. We have boasted 1 million cruise passenger how many times? That was kudos to the Honorable Lindsay Fitzgerald, or which Fitzpatrick, whatever his second name is, Grant. He would have done a very good job where that is concerned, and kudos to him. Let's go to the phone lines and take this call. Caller, you're live on your views. We would have lost that caller. I wonder if we're losing callers or if it's something wrong with our phones, but whatever the situation is, you can try again. Okay, that was tourism. We're looking at the areas that we, gravely affect our economy. Then let's look at agriculture. It's another area. It is now in the hands of the Honorable Alexis. Alexis' last name, it's not coming, but he is the person who the portfolio hands in. He's from Nevis, and I hope Nevis has a very good agriculture program. That's what I was told. They have a very good livestock. I mean, because it's a natural thing for Nevisians to do livestock raising, and it's something that I grew up with. People have always raised their animals, and so I think it's not a very difficult. It's a culture for Nevisians to do, and so with that wealth of experience that Alexis has, I do hope that he can join that together with that of St. Kitts and Nevis and see if he can establish a very good agriculture sector here in St. Kitts and Nevis. At some point in time, I think that Kittitians would have to go to Nevis to get some of the pesticides and the herbicides and stuff like that. He have established a market on an area where he can find, that's a source in which he can find that. So I do hope that we can look forward to a vibrant agriculture industry, because that is the other thing that has to push us, propel us forward. With the situation that we have right now, we see that we as Kittitians and Nevisians, we use lots of produce because we have the boats coming in from the Windward Islands, and that people are heavily dependent on that. So let's see where and whether or not we'll be able to do our own stuff and depend on our own farmers here to provide enough food, provide that food security that we need here on St. Kitts and Nevis. So that is the Ministry of Agriculture. Those are the areas we want to see how fast he'll be able to establish a system that can provide, that we can depend on to provide food security for our residents here of St. Kitts and Nevis. The next area that of concern, we talk about the Minister of Finance, that is the magician. We look at the CBI program. That has been one of our major source of income. And I still think that you can do that, because when you look at what's happening outside in the outer world, people are now going to be starting looking for a safe haven. So that the CBI program can do very well in the very, very near future. I think it's one of the areas that we'll have to seriously depend on before we can start looking at. And again, I've been listening to the news, and they think that cruise tourism is going to be affected very, very shortly. People are not afraid to cruise, and they think that area would be up and running very shortly. So that is some good news. Our CBI program, we know that it is basically a trendsetter. The other countries are looking at where we're at, and they themselves are trying to see if they can fashion their program to ours. So we do hope. It's called management. It's not just because we have people, that program that is for me, that is vibrant and up and running. It means that we can abuse it, and so we have to make sure that people who have good control and a good understanding of accounting and economics, that the Prime Minister would continue to practice that kind of prudency in order to make sure that we are in a situation that can take us for the next 2 years at least. I'm looking at 2 years before we can come back to normalcy, because there are other programs that has to be sustained. We have the STEP program, we have the program, the stimulus package that the prime minister would have rolled out, and these are where citizens are heavily dependent on, because for the source of income. But we are some way back beside the hospitality industry. We're somewhat back to some sort, semblance of normalcy. People are allowed to go and shop. We don't. We, as far as the NEOC has said, is that we have no cases of COVID here. So within amongst ourselves, we can still, we can work. We can still do what we are accustomed to. The areas that are open up now, we now have the restaurants opening up. We have the curfew starting at midnight, so people can start to get back to some semblance of normalcy. The bars can now look at some source of income. The strip, I suppose, I don't know how they're going to do that. I'm not sure that people, because we, after 21 days, our bodies tend to adapt to certain situations. So I think we have adapted more so to staying at home, because it's you're not even thinking about going out now because you get so accustomed of staying at home. So I think that is one of the things that we have to be grateful for. It's having to change again, and so it's going to take some time before the restaurants start seeing patrons coming in the numbers that they would want them to come in. But we have to exercise patience. Is one of the things that we definitely have to exercise. It's patience and knowing that we are going to get back to where we are supposed to. The whole world is in crisis. I've heard people criticizing the government here. It's about opening the borders and keeping it. But we have seen where Antigua have opened their borders, and now they have, I think it's 11 new cases of COVID-19. Does it make sense that people are coming in and for 15 days on vacation, 15 days they have to be in quarantine? And definitely, I always believe that they should be in a government-controlled environment, because people, when you put them in quarantine at home, they are not staying at home, and then they have their families that they're going to be mixing with, and you don't want that either. So it has to be properly planned. It has to be carefully thought about. It's not about opening up so that people who are out there wanting to come in can come in. It's about doing the right thing. It's the complication of the complexity of one saying that our hospitals are not prepared, and yet still we want to open our borders to bring into a hospital that is not fully prepared. I can't seem to understand, that kind of logic. But I am grateful that we have people who understand the situation at the helm. So because of that, I basically have no fear and any worries about when the borders are going to be open. Let's look at another portfolio that we can talk about, is housing. That is the Honorable Eugene Hamilton. He is the one who's responsible for housing. I've seen some. I think they said they have some 300 houses that they have to start working on. If I'm not sure about the figure, but I think that is the first. That's the first. The new set of houses that are coming in. I saw when I listened to him speak, he talked about making provisions for young men who. Normally, when you build houses, women are normally the ones given priority to the houses, of course, because most of them have children and fathers are missing in action. And so, therefore, the women, are the ones who are taken into consideration first because they have the kids. The fathers are basically on their own. So, any priority given. I've always looked at it and wonder, how come so many women getting houses and men are not getting any? But they're now making provisions for that. For those young men who are looking for to own their own homes, they have thought about that studio type of housing for young men. When I listened to it, I was very much I was in awe, because it's I would not have thought about it that way either. But it's like I said, these everybody's taking into consideration, and we do hope that we can see these come to fruition, where these young men would be able to own their own homes. I look at, sometimes I wonder though about the NHC and people who have government homes. I think it is something, because I know there are lots of people, and it's unfair though, huh, who have these government homes, who do not pay for their homes, and they're in arrears for years. Let's go to the phone lines and take a call because I'm going on a street that I think I'm going to regret. Caller, good
Good
morning.
morning.
You're on your views.
Right. You were talking about tourism earlier, but if you really examine the tourism setup, it's not really geared towards having even local tourism activity going on to keep that setup survive.
Caller, can you speak a little
Because
louder? I'm not hearing well.
I'm saying that if you examine our tourism, how it's set up, locals are not necessarily in the position to contribute to it. So even now we have a problem. The local cannot really say only who amongst them, a certain person would contribute to it. Just look at it and even look at the price. You just look at the case then. Maybe you might understand where I'm coming from. From the pricing right now, you'll see something. And if you look at it, that's why some other countries, like the big countries, even if, let's say you and all, and we have this situation, you could just say, you know what, for the weekend, I'm not just going to spend the weekend in a hotel with my family because I don't want to cook this time. You cannot do that. You should. That's what I'm talking about. That it's not geared towards having the local party to contribute and just look at it for the whole range of things.
Yeah, and I do understand what you're saying, and it's a fact. But what I'm saying, though, that the hotels have to take this into consideration, and they have to start introducing some good local rates, because
That's what I'm talking about. The rate,
yeah,
the rate is they're not really catering for the local. And now the tourists, if you want to put it as they're not coming, they could have had the local market to build you up. It cannot happen because then you would have to look at it. Oh, that's my entire month.
yeah,
They go out in one night. I can't afford that. But it's not just the hoteling. Sometimes they all have to be the way our government. Because remember, they're talking about high-end destination, and it's not all tourists might be high-end. And sometimes it's not about the high markup, but it's the turnover.
yeah. But like, the people who are involved, and I like that. I like what you're saying, caller. The people who are involved have to take that into consideration. Look at those the water sports. When you go there as a local, the rates are still high. I mean, if you have a lot more locals here, and if your rates are competitive or affordable, not competitive, but are affordable, locals are going to take, they're going to do it because you have, now that the children are not going to school, you have to find some means of
But
entertainment for them.
it's not catered towards the local market.
It is
That's the
not.
problem.
It's not. That's a big
Therefore, the
problem.
businesses, now the tourists are not coming. Those businesses have a problem.
Yep.
And the other thing is as well, sometimes it's taxation. I know it all boils into the tourism as well. If it's tax, we have a problem.
But I
I
think that
think
they have
right
they
now,
have
I
they
think
have
right now the
relief.
thing is Nevis. I think right now, especially when you have to pay airlift. I think maybe this is what government have to look into. I think right now, with the air travel, our tax is the highest in the OECS, is not in the region, and maybe even compare, is not in the world. And we have to look at that as well.
Yeah.
And local tourists, we do not look at it that way. But let me give you an example. I mean, you will catch where I'm coming from. Someone moved from New York to go to Florida. You are hearing they say they're contributing to the tourism market in Florida, right? But they're from the same country. They're different states. Likewise, we're not even thinking about that. Okay, well, people from Singapore and people from Nevis. Okay, inter-country tourism. Not even that we're thinking about. Maybe we need to think about it.
Yeah, but like I
Therefore, we
said,
will
people
have
are
people
thinking
who are
about
not
it because
thinking about
sometimes
things.
sometimes you want to go to Nevis, but when you look at the rates, the hotel rates to stay at night, and you have a family of four, you can't. And especially the fact you have to now take into consideration that people are not working as they should, and so those
And that's
considerations
what I'm talking about.
yeah.
That's what I'm talking about with the local tourism. It should be, I mean, you've been to the United States, and you will see some of those. They have the hotels that are high mark.
Yeah, and then there's
They
some
have
more.
some that are down for anybody
Yeah, days in you go in and
go.
you
But
pay
we do not have it here.
days in you go and pay $40 a night. I was like, whoa, wow, it's really
But
good.
we
I
do not
mean,
have it here.
yeah, that's the same thing I said. Even though they try to tell you their local rates is still too high, they're not taking into consideration the salaries of local people.
But not
You,
only that, the currency, because maybe that's what we have to look at.
yeah, the
Stop quoting
exchange
US
rate.
and quote in our local currency.
Yeah,
Because that's the problem. When you have to say, okay, $100 US is so cheap, but it's still expensive. That's
That's
maybe
$270, you
$300.
see.
It's nearly $300. So
Yeah.
maybe that's what we have to need to look at. If there's anything, change our currency. I mean, some people don't talk about sovereignty and support. We have to look at cost of living because maybe you have to look at. I mean, economists might be able to come in and say, but who knows? Maybe our economy is an inflated economy. Inflation. You know what I mean?
It's caught.
I don't
I
know,
say,
because
I wouldn't say
the
change.
cost of living is more than what you get paid. So that's the next thing. And you were talking about housing and so forth. At the end of the day, even sometimes when you have to look at it to have the housing method as a person who they're trying to help. At the end of the day, when you have to look at the payment,
It's too
is
high.
it really helping or putting a burden on people for life?
That's one of the discussions that I said. Okay, the payment for me, I find they should give them extended years, make the payments affordable, and of course they're gonna pay off in 35 years. The interest is gonna be, you're basically gonna get the same. But people have to make sure that the payments are affordable. You have to take it because you're
Well,
saying that you're.
not only the payment of affordable law, the interest rate. Because if you miss a payment, the interest when you miss is like nearly 100%.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So if you have a hard month like now, unless you don't bring a special scheme in place, you have a problem with the interest you have to pay when you miss in everything. And then when it comes to small businesses again, so I guess everything has to go back.
The government has a lot of work to do.
The taxes that are so high, most definitely the cost of living will be high. Once upon a time, we could have boasted to say we have the cheapest thing in the world, and that is when our economy is to flourish. Even the water bill, even the electricity bill, it is so ridiculous.
No. That's not true. That one I'm gonna defend. That one I'm gonna defend.
Wait, no. I'm gonna put something to you.
Yeah.
Compare to others and compare to what. I know things change. But when you have to even compare to dollar for dollar in some countries, we have a problem.
No, even the food. No. I can tell you this because I've done online shopping. I've traveled and I've made comparisons. It's not much of a difference. Taking into consideration that we have to pay duty on our stuff, the difference is not much. I refuse to import stuff anymore because when you start to import the stuff, it works out to be much higher to me than anything else. It is you go around and you compare. When I convert to EC, it's not much of a difference. The cost of living is high overseas. Very. I always can't wait to come back home. I don't know. People say when you come and say, "Oh, a tin of milk is this," because they start looking at their currency. If I tell you a tin of milk here is $1 or $2 EC, then you're gonna say, "Oh no, that is about €30." Well, €30 times 3. It's not much. It's not much of a difference.
A dollar for a dollar, because at the end of the day, and that's what I'm saying.
We can't do a dollar for a dollar. We can't do that. At the end of the day, a dollar.
No, because what happens? If you do that, then then we will always have it will never be even, because at the end of the day, when you have the currencies have different value, it will always reflect in everything. And if we take a dollar for a dollar, we were just talking with the hotels, right? Mm-hmm. And $100, which is cheap to somebody, when you have to convert it to EC, it is not cheap for the person. So it's a complete. You have to take it for dollar for dollar.
Well, then we have to start quoting in our currency, and that's one of the things that I find that we need to do.
That's what I'm saying.
Quote in our currency.
Quote in our currency, it needs to be, and it work out well. Because you see, sometimes the value of the currency would have dropped, and we don't even realize it. But the buying power would have gone, and we don't realize it. Because every time you have to put more to buy something that you to cut, the value would have lost compared to a lot of other factors that come in, but we're not realizing that value. Look, you see what's happening now? We're going to eliminate the 1 cent and 2 cents. That speaks volume, We do not look at it in a certain way, but it speaks volume because there's no longer a need for 1 cent and 2 cents because nothing works that anymore. So there's a change, and there's the value of certain things and the currency start to wane away. But anyways, my friend, thanks for the conversation, but just that little thing what we're talking about there is only to let you see. If we do not let our market cater in everything we do for our local people, we're going to be creating, they have some countries that they have the poor, the very poor, the poor, and the upper poor, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
we do not want that, because if we stop cater for the local marketing, let's look at the cost of living. Let's look at everything we do. If we do not cater for the local market in everything, we're going to have a problem.
Well, I suppose
And
the
then
whole
we go
world
further. A
over.
lot of people who you think should be doing better, you're going to realize something, because it is not catered for us. And remember, when someone comes with, let's say, even if they have a pension for 1,000 US, that's 3,000 easy, so they could survive. But you not getting that, and somebody come with the pounds, and somebody come with the euro, you realize what happened.
But when you have to look at certain things, so you have to look at certain things. So people have to take on the responsibility on themselves, because a lot of times we say, oh, you can't afford. You can't afford what? When you look at the lifestyle of our locals here, it's not
Right.
anything that says poor. Because it's
Right.
everything. I would think twice about buying a music festival ticket, but the ordinary, and I always wonder, how could they afford to buy it and I can't afford to buy it?
Pride. What I'm trying to tell you,
Pride,
Everybody
it
wants
goes
to,
before
yeah,
fall.
Pride. Okay. Pride, and pride brings fall. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Pride also brings poverty. You know that, right?
Yep.
And that's what happened to a lot of our people. If I can't afford something that costs a lot, I go and I try to bargain. And I get it for less. I don't know if you remember once upon a time when things used to be cheaper, but everybody, oh, if it's cheap, it's not good. And that's our problem. We want everything expensive and believe because it's expensive is good. When we do like that, we're going to get ripped off all the time, because people are going to say, okay, they don't want anything that is cheap, but it's good. They want something that is expensive, that appears to be good because it's expensive. Thank you very much.
Thank
my
you.
friend.
Thank you for your
If you
contribution.
look back, you realize certain things. I'm not saying we have to go back in the past, but you realize the trend of what we're going, pride, and try to make, because anything expensive is good, that's causing a problem.
I'm gonna tell you, the world is open. Everybody can interrelate. You know, everybody. You see what happens in America. America is right here in St. Kitts. Our practices are changing. Our culture is changing. Everything about us, the exposure has changed, and so therefore we are a different set of people to where we were then. The only problem that I have is that we have to learn to start practice, to be responsible. That those are the areas that we have to look into, and our young people have a mindset that everything that they see now,
Before we go, if we do not be careful in the policies we have, we're going to go back where we're going to be living in a country and we own nothing. We're going to be a landless people living in a land, a country we bought. And that's for us to ponder over.
No, that has changed, though. We are not going to be landless anymore. I think this government has really done a good job in reclaiming a lot of the lands.
It's not just by the government side. It's not just because you're looking about reclaiming, But
And I find the areas lands.
You'll see certain changes. So
Lands are still
those
affordable.
good
People have, like I
contributions for us
said,
to be aware.
people have to become a lot more responsible. We have to learn to prioritize. Omnivision, maybe that's why we were told what we have to look forward to first. First, you have to secure a house. Later on, then if you feel like it, you can secure a car. For us, it's always been a luxury. But you look at young people now, the first thing they want to have is a car. They don't want houses. They have lands. They're not even paying for that. And you see every young person now these days, as soon as they start working, the first thing they purchase is a car. Attitudes have to change. We have to start to instill in our children what is its priority and what's supposed to be considered as worth.
But you know something? What was right is now wrong, and what is wrong is now right, and therefore we still have a bigger problem.
Okay, thank you, caller. We have another call online. Let's do this. Thank you for your contribution. Good morning. You're on live on your views.
Yes, good morning, Sandra.
Hi, good morning, darling.
I'm listening, right? And your last caller, he talked about changing the currency. What is he trying to do? Devalue our money?
That's.
Because are we trying to make us like Jamaica? I mean, for me, personally, I think it is doing wonderful.
Wonderful.
And for me, it's not like things that extremely expensive. Because, I mean, when you look at the whole big picture around the world, the cost of living is increasing everywhere you turn.
Mm-hmm.
It's something inevitable. You can't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. Because the more progress, the higher you go on the ladder, is the more you got to try to keep up.
It's true.
It's like you talk about people buying tickets to music fest and you can't afford it. At the end of the day, he says pride. It has nothing to do with pride. It's all about prioritizing.
Prioritizing.
You choose your
Exactly.
battle.
Exactly.
You choose your battle. It's all about prioritizing what you want in life, and that's the thing. Think if you have people have the opportunity to own house, to own land.
It's the
You know
opportunity.
how
You're
hard it is
right.
to buy a house here in America.
It's
In
true.
America, to buy a house, you better make sure you have credit. If you have no credit, and you manage to get a house, you're gonna pay twice for what the house costs because you don't have that credit that person said this bar that your credit's supposed to be good to deal. If you don't have it and you manage to get the house, you pay more for the house. You have to. That's how we go. But in thinking people have the opportunity. It's all about prioritizing and deciding what you want in life. For me, all he talk about water bill. Come on,
No,
water
man.
bill in sink is
It's next
cheap.
to nothing. It's so cheap. It's next to nothing.
Water bill in sink is
Electricity, no way.
cheap.
It's much cheaper. I make comparisons. Because when you travel, you can make comparisons, and even our food stuff. People say, "Oh, but wait," because they're looking at the dollar to the EC dollar, and they say, "Oh, it's not. It's really not in comparison."
Exactly. I mean, right now up here in America, grocery just the past couple months of COVID-19, you go in the grocery store, the grocery price they're just creeping up slowly. The packaging are getting smaller, but the prices are getting bigger.
I
So
know.
it's an inevitable thing. It's all about what we do with what we have.
It's true.
That's what
So
it comes
true.
down to. So,
Thank
Mister, please don't devalue our money
Thank
because a lot of people would like the dollar to be where ours is. Let's hold on to that strong dollar.
Thank you.
God bless Saint Kitts and Nevis. You
Thank
have
you.
a good day.
You do likewise. It's always about prioritizing and having a good understanding of where you are. I do understand what the caller is saying. One of the areas that I would focus on is the fact where you can encourage, locals becoming tourists. You have to have the opportunity to go to a hotel and be able to afford to spend a night there. I mean, Father's Day is coming up, and you'll be able to take the hotel should have been open and encouraging locals to come and spend a night or two, but I suppose they look at the fact that there are other things that they have to take into consideration too. But these are the things that you have to look at. Those people who do the water sports, the hikes and everything. We have to start, and maybe this is a good time for you to start looking at it, where you have to start to cater for your locals. The prices there is always about what the tourists can pay. It's not about what the locals. We have to enjoy these things too. So maybe it's a good thing. We have this time to start to think about where we are and where we want to go, understanding the how frail our tourism industry can be, and we can't totally depend on it. We have to start looking at getting the resources from our own locals, but you have to make sure it's affordable. And like I said, the caller talk about cost of living. Cost of living is saying it's not high as people are saying. It's you being able to be responsible enough, prioritizing and see where you have to go. When I look at that at salaries and think it's in comparison to other countries, I mean, please, we are doing very, very well. It's just, and when we look at the lifestyle of Kittitians, when you look at the age group of young people owning their own homes here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and compare it to the outer world, we realize that we are in very, very good standings. But all I'm saying to the people here in St. Kitts and Nevis is that we have to learn to prioritize. Hardships are going to come. The times are coming now, they're going to be perilous. And we have to make sure that we have a good understanding of where we are and where we want to be in the future. We cannot be always dependent on government. I like the programs that they're pushing forward, entrepreneurship, where they're encouraging us to become our own business owners. And it's an area, I remember in the 1980s, that was one of the strong points for St. Kitts and Nevis. We had the Small Business Association, where lots of small business, emerged. And that's when you can start saying that you have a vibrant vibrant economy because you're not heavily dependent on the government, and government is not the ones who has to give everything. And that is what makes the difference. So these are areas that we have to seriously look into and see how we are going to, as a people, because we have to make it work. We can't depend wholly and solely on government. Like I said, they're humans just like us. They are waiting for us to, they go around and they see areas that they need to look at. There's a situation now that I am hoping that government will start to address. This is from hearing what people are saying, the water situation. I mean, we shouldn't have a water problem in St. Kitts and Nevis. Never, not at all. We shouldn't have that. But that for me should be given priority. Those are the areas that the government has to start working on, and we have to be patient. We have to be grateful that because of what they would have done in the first term of buying back our land, some of it, it has afforded most of our young people to the opportunity where they can start seriously thinking about owning their own homes. And as parents, we have to start teaching our children about prioritizing. It's not something that is taught in school, but as parents, these are the roles and responsibilities that we have to take on, of guiding our children, having the experience ourselves, and realizing that the future, things are going to be difficult. So whatever you can accumulate now, it would better put you in a better position for the future. And we have to start looking at those things. The government, they have a responsibility to us, and we have to make sure that they live up to expectations. Our expectations are based on what they would have said they are going to do for us. And so we hope that in the long run we can build that relationship where we, as the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, can work together with the government, making sure that they have a good understanding of what is necessary or what areas that they should work on first, so that we can benefit as individuals. It's going to be tough, and I don't think they can tell you that it's going to get better. We have a situation, it's a worldwide situation. The world seriously is going to be in a recession. If not in a recession, we know that hard times are going to come. We are faced with COVID-19. We are faced with the fact that our tourism industry is not as functional as it should be, or they're not reaping the benefits that they should reap. We know for a fact that our agriculture industry, it's in the infantry stage. It's going to take some time to get us to where we want to go. We ask that we exercise patience, and that we'll come together and work as a unit and not against. We need that. I still see people that are very bitter about the government, that the government is already they're already in power. They're the ones who these are the ones who are in government. The Team Unity, they're in government. That is CCM, PLP, and PAM. They have formed the government. Let's work together with them, because they're not the government for their supporters. They're government for the people. And this is something that we have to understand. But if you're going to stay outside and you're going to bash and you're going to curse and you're not going to be a part of, then of course you're going to be left behind. So let's start to refocus now and see how we can all come together with the opposition and the government and the people, and see how we can make St. Kitts a better place. Because let me tell you, we need all hands on deck. The times that are coming up is not going to be good. And we have to understand that, and we have to start working together as one. Well, it was my intention to go over time, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm out of time, because I was robbed of my time. But it's how life is. Sometimes you have to give, and because sometimes I take extra time sometimes. But this time I'm going to comply. But it was a pleasure. It's always a pleasure having be able to converse and express and not entertain but educate and inform you about what is happening in and around us. It's a pity my guest couldn't come, but I do hope I can get him for next week Friday. So next week Friday, I see if he can reschedule and we can have that discussion, because it's a discussion that we need to have. My name is Sandra Quilly Atherton, and I am talking too fast because I am running out of time. So let me say, I do hope that you enjoy the weekend. It is a beautiful day here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It is summertime. It's a summer. It's with a breeze. It's a place that you'd want to be, but it's unfortunate our borders are closed and you can't come in. it's an unfortunate situation. But I'll tell you about it every Friday so you'll have an understanding of what we're doing. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. I look forward to having the same discussion with you next weekend.